Continuous meniscal suture in radial meniscal tear, the Hourglass technique. The filming was performed at the Arthroscopy lab of the National Institute of Traumatology and Orthopedics of Brazil. In the schematic image, we see a complete radial tear of the medial meniscus. The arrows will represent the path through which the suture thread will pass through the meniscal injury. The first arrow will cross the lesion obliquely from the proximal to distal and from the posterior to anterior. The second arrow will cross the meniscus horizontally from posterior to anterior. The third arrow will cross the lesion obliquely from distal to the proximal and posterior to anterior, and the last arrow will cross the lesion horizontally again from posterior to anterior, closing the meniscal lesion. We demonstrate the technique of continuous suture, the Hourglass technique, in a bovine anatomic model performed at the Arthroscopy lab of National Institute of Traumatology and Orthopedics of Brazil. We made a complete radial tear in the medial meniscus body. We prepared the meniscus for all suture device with an ultra-resistant wire. Tapes are also advised to be used in this type of injury. Initially, we crossed the meniscus proximal and posterior of the radial tear. By palpation, we found the exit site of the meniscal suture device. We pulled the shortest suture length, which should always be positioned for the anterior side of the suture device. We fixed this end with a Kelly clamp. We returned with the device to the interior of the joint and positioned the device by passing with a suture thread obliquely on the anterior and distal surface about 5 mm from the radial tear. We crossed the meniscus, easily find the region of the exit of the meniscus for all. We pulled the formed loop on the posterior face of the device to gain length of the wire. After this step, we increase the anterior loop of the wire so that end of the wire passing through the interior of the device is the same as the passing through the arthroscope portal. We return the device to the inside of the joint again and cross the lesion horizontally, penetrating the meniscus in the posterior and distal region of the lesion. We found the device through the extraarticular surgical approach and repeated the steps to increase the loops. We returned the device to the inside of the joint and crossed the lesion with the suture in an oblique way again. We entered the meniscus with the device and formed a new anterior loop in the extraarticular region. After repairing the loop, we returned the device to the joint and crossed the lesion horizontally from the anterior to posterior, penetrating the meniscus about 10 mm posterior to the radial tear. We found the device on the articular surface and pulled the suture out of the meniscus for all. We then remained with the two ends of the wires and 3 loops formed. We cut a loop and through a light traction we observe which suture thread connections with which. So we started the sutures, making 3 to 4 stitches on each thread. We were able to observe the complete closure of the lesion inside of the joint. Completing then the surgical procedure.